Good evening, everybody. Gray Matters Radio coming at ya. That's right. You hear a new little intro and everything, don't you? It's a little, we're changing things up a little bit. Are you feeling it?
You got Coldplay for the new intro, it sounds like.
It's not necessarily Coldplay, but it is some new jams. You gotta switch things up a little bit, But now, one of the reasons why we're switching things up a little bit, and in case you've been paying attention to our Twitter feeds and everything, we've been, doing a little thing called the reporters.com. You may have seen it. It's an actual independent, impartial kind of news source. So what's actually really cool here in a couple months, we're actually going to be launching our own podcasting network and everything. We're going to be moving everything over to there. If we're moving everything over to there, we got to have new music. We got to keep it kind of fresh and cool. So I was like, you know what? We're going to get a start on it a little bit. So
I like it.
We're doing up a little bit.
I like that. That's a good intro.
It is a cool intro. It's a little more upbeat and everything, right?
It makes you think, too. It makes you start going, and that's what we want to do on this show.
I want a punch in the face, right? Right when you kind of hear it. So,
you want a punch in the face.
Yeah. So now people are probably listening. What the hell? The music is different. What happened to Gray Matters? Well, this is Gray Matters Radio. Just some doper kind of music. I am your host, Michael Devine, and in case this is the first time that you are joining this show, Gray Matters is a show that operates somewhere in the world of the in-between. You see, there's a lot of different things in this world, There's political parties. We have all these varying beliefs. Some are Democrats, some are Republicans, some are liberal, conservative, whatever it is. Well, this show operates in between that. We are not forcing ourselves to go right or left on this one. Now, why are we doing this? Well, the world basically is, I don't know. The world seems to be going down to a dark place, isn't it?
It is. I'll tell you what, it's the whole us versus them mentality that is not doing us any favors.
It isn't. It isn't. So I took it upon myself, Michael Devine, a counselor with a conscience. He saw the world just going down the crapper, and he just couldn't take it anymore. So I put together this show, and naturally I had to bring my best friend of 30 years, Bill Reed of the armchairqb.org.
Hello. Good to be here once again. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, because there's only one person that was really going to be able to call me on my shit. It's going to be you.
And you're the only one that can keep me in line.
Exactly. So. We're 85% aligned. That 50% we're a little bit different.
15% is that's a lot of differences, but yeah.
And of course, now on the show we have varying guests. Sometimes we have special guests like experts, and sometimes we have our revolving door of correspondence. Now we have today my father, the Professor Richard Devine. How you doing tonight, Dad?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm here.
You are here. I mean, how the hell are we all here? I mean, this is it's been a crazy week.
Hey, the gang's all here.
And your dad was one of the people that used to break us up from some of those fights when we were kids.
That is true.
It makes sense that he's here.
The best fights.
Yeah,
I think
but we used to get slugged trying to break it up. So we let you guys go.
Well,
we let you guys go at it.
Ever since the infamous fight in Myrtle Beach in '87,
we haven't recovered. It was funny. We were talking about summer vacations and what we used to do, and Jill was like, "Well, you guys used to go to Myrtle Beach." I go, "Used." Was the key. We never went back. There was put it this way, there was a 3-hour traffic jam due to 5 traffic cones, and then Bill and I, of course, were in the back seat just pointing fingers at each other, and I'm not touching you.
Well, someone of the parents thought it was a good idea to put the boys in the same car for at least a leg of the trip, which made sense until they realized that we were both insane.
I mean, it made sense at the time, didn't it? I mean, it kind of did, but it went south. It went south, and so I recall vividly where it went south. This is crazy. I literally remember. So the basically what it was, we were playing the slug bug game, right?
Oh yes.
And so now when you're traveling, us Midwesterners, we love to travel, right? So 10 hours, 12 hours, whatever. So we were playing the slug bug game, but naturally we started changing the rules of the game. The rules, right? So then it started going, well, it was a slug bug minivan. Then it was a slug bug off-road dune buggy, a slug bug, and then it was if you got the rare ones, it was 100 punches. And Bill was
the micro minibuses.
Yeah, so Bill was it's the highest one was a slug bug dune buggy roadster, right? It was 100 hits. And of course, when we make that rule, you're sitting there going,
wait a minute, where are these rules coming from?
Where are these rules coming from, right? And what are the chances that you're going to see one of those, right? And then, of course, Bill said he saw one, but no one else saw it.
You go, where'd it go? Oh, it's gone now. Don't look for it.
It was just nowhere, right?
Yeah, all right.
So Bill said he saw it, but the reality was nobody else saw it. And he said he had 100 punches, and let's just say it went south from there. My dad's pissed off because, well, sitting in traffic for 11 hours hearing us in the back seat, and yeah, it went south. That's all I got to say.
Well, thank God, we had parents with some patience for most of the time. I got to tell you, I try to parlay that same patience onto my two children now because it's like that all the time in my house.
It's true,
It didn't work threatening you guys stopping at the next rest stop and letting the roadside vampires have fun with you all. That worked when you were kids, but it didn't work at that point anymore.
Yeah, it's all right though, but naturally, so it's a good motley host of crews right now. So now this week, on the show you've been listening to us, sometimes we have really big targeted topics where we can't wait to have this guest. We've been trying to get him. Other times we're really just kind of responding to things that have been going on in the world, and so all right, so we've had a shutdown temporarily kind of end. But and I was thinking about the show. I was like, hey, we'll do something about the shutdown. But it was like I was listening to, it was like Ann Coulter and Lou Dobbs, and man, they were sitting there calling like Trump a wimp. They're saying that he caved in. They were basically saying he was what did they say? He was the biggest wuss since George H.W. Bush.
They really did. Yeah. They really went after him.
He took over the role of wimp.
Yeah, and so then I started reading the stuff on Facebook and just people gloating. People that are respectable adults, people that would never this trash talk people and say the most awful thing. I'm talking just not even passive aggressive. I'm talking aggressive.
Like in your face.
Yeah, people
the government's open.
Yeah, and I was like, what the? I was like, what is wrong with our country? We're talking about making America great again, and the reality. How can we make America great again when this is the stuff that how we're treating each other?
Do you think that maybe part of the issue is, and it's not a bad thing, but that since we do have freedom of speech and people are exercising that freedom of speech, that some people just, and they're not that they don't have the right to it, we all do, obviously, but some people just enjoy it a heck of a lot more than others, and some people are bad winners and bad losers, and it's just.
But it didn't used to be like that. Dad, you've been paying attention to politics a hell of a lot longer we have, and I know politics has always been an ugly place, but I think we always sometimes you saw snarky comments, like Saturday Night Live would always make fun of them, but do you really recall it being this bad among people, especially after an election or during this? Has it ever been like this?
Well, as I always tell you, you have to almost go back to the 60s. Is when, between, you had the Long War, you had the Vietnam War, you had the civil rights movements, you had the younger generation bolting against the establishment, you had the rise of white supremacy that was starting to come about with the civil rights movements. So America's always had its periods of ups and downs, coming in there. But I think I always go back and said, to me, the 60s were the best of times and the worst of times. Now the key of it is in here. Back then, a lot of the violence, you got to remember, cities were burning, in which the National Guards, Detroit, Philadelphia, Watts, Newark, these cities under any little thing could start a tinderbox going on. You had political assassinations going on. You had acts of violence against white and black. Schools where normal suburban schools, center schools, now had police patrolling the halls because, of the hatred between there. I think when you take a look at it all now, it hides itself. Sometimes some people don't know what it is. They don't know how to identify it. Then all of a sudden it goes dormant, and then all of a sudden it just takes a spark, and it comes back to where now we can identify it. Now we can say where it is. And I think when you look at it now, it's the fact that you've got all this internet, you've got the social media, you've got the Yahoos, you've got the Googles, you've got 24-hour news. now people are starting to bring it back because somewhere along the line they can now identify it and they can name it and they feel as though it's the real. But I think this point, I think it's a little bit more violent on this part where people, because of its ability of the internets and everybody else to get to a lot more people
That's
than it was in the
that's
60s.
that's the exact point I think I was having conversations with a couple people about is that it's like there's been differing points in time, like you said, Dad, where it's been bad. I mean, think about, how a lot of people talk to the hippies, dirty hippies, long hairs. You'd get pretty bad, but the problem is, there was no internet. There was nothing out there that was there was nothing out there basically to say, oh wow, like everyone read this, it's going to get out to 100 million people in 5 seconds, and then not only that, you can feed off of it, and that's where I think it's like this self-perpetuating cycle to where it gets out to more people, people can read it, they can see it, and ergo we get more involved with it.
Yeah.
And that's because literally, I've heard things said on the news or by a candidate, and it's like, sure as shit, 20 minutes later on Facebook, you have people using the same terms, the same phrases, and it's like,
Well, and that's what the internet is. I mean, it's just just putting out ideas. It's just a giant echo of where before, when the internet was not around, someone would say something you read in a paper, you maybe discuss it with your friends. But now it's like you said, you can post that and repost that, and it's reaching, the messages on the internet, whether they're positive or negative, they're just there to reach millions of people, and that's the way it is, and it's one thing we have to adapt to is, and just learn. Listen, the internet's not going anywhere, so we need to figure out, what we want to do, if anything, and go with it instead of saying, well, this is how it is, how it should be. It's the way it's gonna be from now on, as far as I can tell. So.
Well, in the extent now, as I always like to use the term, is because it took so long for people to try to figure out what it was before the internet. You had to really assimilate it, and usually it could go away or whatever. So the key being is, could you name it, and did you know what it was? And when you look today, it's fast. It comes at, just as you all said, it's coming at you fast. And you've got people that are making those names. Oh, I can name it. I can see it. I can understand it. And look at these areas where people go on the shooting rampages. Why would a person walk into a bank and kill 5 people?
well, heck, a lot of
Why are they
people.
doing this?
Well,
Because
a lot of us have
some
been
are,
saying we shouldn't be televising it all. That by literally televising all these things, you're giving them what it is they want. They wanted to make a statement on their way out.
Right. But
that's
it's like,
where I
does
was
the
coming
news
back.
not going to report the news, though? Does that, not that it's censorship, but does it
That's
become censorship?
that's the responsibility of the press, and the First Amendment is to allow the freedom of speech, the freedom of opinion.
But here's the interesting thing, though. But you said the press, though, right? But think about what's happened with the news over, let's say, the last, 5-6 years. It used to be your ABC, NBC, CBS, right? And then you had your 24 hours news. But when things, to me, I think really started getting crazy is when bloggers, the blogosphere, the podcasters were the ones where people were more going for their information, and then they didn't have the same rules. If it was in the press, it was, you have to verify this 2-3 different ways, right?
Sure.
There was a candor, there was a way of talking, right? But then bloggers, they didn't have to verify anything. It became report it first, retract it later.
When the internet first really started getting going, before the political section of the internet, so to speak, really took off, I feel like one of the first bloggers or opinion places like that where stuff didn't have to be verified, and something that most of us can all relate to, was sports. I heard that so-and-so is going to be a free agent after this season, and he's interested in going to Seattle.
Yeah.
That's
And
just
you sought it out.
That's just guys talking or girls talking about that. And then I think somewhere along the way, it transitioned as well into politics, where now you're like, well, I heard that Trump was literally a direct employee working for the Russians.
Yeah.
I think it's just a natural evolution of things.
And we were talking about it before we went on the air of, well, if you had a lot of viewers or if you had a lot of followers, there's that that paired association, that instant credibility. It's the same thing as why do they use celebrity endorsers for things? Do you think, O.J. Simpson knew anything about Avis Rent-A-Car? No, but O.J. was running, and you use it. I mean, and that's the thing where all of a sudden now they have credibility. They don't have the same rules that apply.
There's no kind of consequence if they're wrong, because they probably preface it by saying, here's the rumor, here's the innuendo, this is what I've heard, this is what people are saying, which, I think we're all guilty of doing this at a party or a gathering with our friend. Hey, did you hear about Jimbo down the street?
Well,
yeah.
And if you take a look at it, back when we didn't have the internet, what did we do? Letters to the editors.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Now it's
we
comment
had to
section.
write.
Yeah.
You had to be very good in school. Let's face it, you had to write.
Yep.
So people found a way to express their views by writing. Okay, they went into the papers or to whatever. The other internet used to be, remember in school, is notes going around.
There you go.
Yeah.
What was the best way to hurt a person? Have a list of, who's favorite, who isn't, or what's all the areas. So there were ways to communicate. Okay, but it wasn't as fast. And was it biased? Yeah. Did some people get hurt? My God, yeah. If you got on the girls' list that you were not, or you smelled, or you looked like a monkey, guess what? That was a social social stigma.
Sure.
Yeah. And then think about it, now there's that diffusion, not responsibility, but that in personality, like they're not here in front of me, so I'm saying it. So think about like Facebook, and that's to me it almost started a couple years ago. People are saying things on the internet that you would never say to anyone's face. Now,
and that's the impersonality of the internet,
right?
Because any other way, you're exactly right. You'd have to be in your face, and you'd have to face the person. Today, you can go on the internet, and if people don't like what it is, you defriend them.
Sure.
But what else is around there?
But the thing is, at least I think that in the last 2 years, and I think it's in this current political cycle where now it's not online. Now people are saying these things to each other's faces. Racist things.
Do you think that? I think that's a part of it as well. But I think part of that, the things that are the confrontations that are going on that we hear about, also is the fact that every single American, or at least 98% of Americans, have a handheld device that's capable of video recording the incident. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot more. I think there was always this stuff going on. It might have gotten worse, no doubt, but I think the fact that it's all recorded now. Anytime there's an incident at Taco Bell, I was at Chipotle the other day.
Why'd you have your camera out?
I was at Chipotle the other day for lunch, and the woman behind me, I pulled out my phone because I could just tell. She was like, can I have more meat than that, please? And then we decided, she's like, I said, can I have more? and I could see she's getting agitated, and I could see the person behind the counter was agitated. So you better believe I got my food. I sat down there because I was eating. I pulled out my phone.
You're waiting for it.
I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen here. But after what's been going on, I said, I don't know. That's my point, though. So I think when this stuff happens, everyone's there recording. It's just like anything you do.
Yep.
Everyone, like you said earlier there, Dick, was, negative news is what people are attracted to.
Yeah.
So,
sure.
Yeah.
And they're giving them what they want. That's the thing.
Yeah.
They're doing it for ratings.
Everybody going to a Starbucks.
Yeah.
People go to a Starbucks, and all of a sudden, if they see an employee treat a customer,
yep,
immediately it's viral.
You're fired as the employee. You're publicly shamed.
Yeah, and
publicly.
Well, some of them are justified, though.
Yep.
Not all of them, but some of the people that are shamed on the internet are you did it to yourself.
But you've got that capability to where you can download from these smartphones an incident that goes viral.
Yep.
And
within
next thing
seconds.
You know, oh God, yeah.
I remember when that one that came out this week, the MAGA kid. I literally was going, all right, what was happening right before then, and literally it was almost like. It was almost like a movie series of like prequels. It was like, well, then this is what happened right before that. Well, this is what happened right before that.
It was a prequel.
It was,
exactly
and then it turned out there was a whole third group that was involved.
Thing. It was like 5 minutes earlier.
There was a third group that was involved in that. That was a crazy thing about it.
Well, and the thing is, we can only judge on what we see on the video. So if the first video is released and it doesn't have all that. A lot of us are going to jump to that conclusion that, hey, those kids, what were you doing? But then when you see the other video, you're like, oh, boy, did I get that wrong. So I don't know. I mean,
And that's where it's
Well,
kind of.
that's why most of the schools forbade any type of cell phones in there, because the kids were sitting there taping the teachers,
Oh, they were goading the
and they were
teachers
doing
in responses.
incidences,
Yeah.
and then, I mean, and putting it out there as viral,
yep.
and it became a means of also, let's face it, it became a means of bullying.
Yeah.
People were doing things, putting it on the thing to humiliate
Well, and this
people to
is
the point where they would,
Well, and that's the thing where it's
That-
like, as a teacher, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on this one. I'm gonna tee this one up because I've been talking about this for I don't know how long. Of okay, the effect of the way politicians are, doing their campaigns, the way the media is going after people, and it's two ways. And I wrote a blog on the Reporters about this the other day about right now it's not fake news, it's fake reality. Literally,
Yes.
people depending on what blog, whatever they only get one bit of information. They construct their view of reality, and anyone who has something different, then the second part is the language they use, how they talk, and the justifications. And so it's talking down to somebody, you're an enemy. There's no respect because I don't have to because I have this justification, and I have this construct of reality that is so real to me, and somebody else has something completely different. And to me, I mean, that's the very symbiotic nature of society and technology anyway. But now that's being used and weaponized to pit people against each other, I'm seeing it in my office. I'm seeing how people talk to each other, seeing it on social media. Everybody has a story. And the teachers are the ones I hear the most about from the kids. And Dad, you were talking about just how the students are talking to the teachers, how the teachers, how
yeah.
the kids are. So, I mean, help people understand, like, as a teacher, what are you seeing? And you had a good theory. It's like, it's just they're mimicking what the parents are doing.
Yeah. I mean, essentially, the kids are a lot more aware of their surroundings than we ever were. The kids have methodologies. They know social media sites that you wouldn't even think of. They know where to go. They know how to do it. They have their own little niches to where they go, and they can communicate with other schools, kids in other schools, in the states, out of the states, whatever.
Instantaneously too.
Yeah.
When they get into the school where it used to be where we were, you didn't use the F word. You didn't use all this. You didn't talk back to anybody.
Yeah.
They have now come to see where all this stuff is getting away with, where that norm has now been adjusted to where, and again, I'm not a full-time no, but I've just observed to where, wow, there really isn't that much in any, not just in teachers, but everywhere. And if you listen to their conversations, they don't really have too much respect for a lot of things.
No, and no respect for each other.
Institutions,
Nothing.
the system,
Nothing.
themselves.
No.
I mean, everything to them. And I mean, you sit there and you go back, you're going, we were anti, which is normal in growing up, but we still respected. And these people don't, and that's not all of them, believe me, I'm not saying that, but there's just a growing thing to where, the entitlement to whatever, or to those who have been economically disadvantaged, or they've been put into these positions. Again, as I come back, these kids, they know its name and they know about it. And they're putting two and two together and then forming their opinions, and they're becoming very angry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed.
And
The thing is, when they're kids, they don't even really know where to direct it.
Well, teenagers are going to be jerks anyway.
They're going to
A
be
lot of
jerks
them are
anyway.
gonna-
Well,
it's just-
yeah,
that's what
but-
what teenagers
but
do.
even the parents are afraid of
Yeah.
these kids.
Well, that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Is it's the inmates are running the asylum in some of these cases here, and it's like you said, there is no consequences, and the parents are either unable or unwilling to discipline their kids for whatever
Oh
reason.
God, and they're
Well,
like parrots too.
Yeah.
I mean, they mimic
Well, and then when
everything.
And when they grow up, I mean, when they're going out there to try to get jobs, what are they going to do?
Yep.
Are you going to be able to teach your boss? I sit there and I'm going, you guys got a real world. The teachers have to almost, or other people have to take it almost, because they can't do anything else because the way the system has protected. But when you go and you do business and you start to want part-time jobs, full-time jobs, you're not going to be able to, throw f-bombs all over the place
No.
Hmm.
to your boss.
Oh, there's social
You
media. I
know,
mean, and I don't think. I mean, think
wow.
about when we were growing up. I mean, we all mimicked and mirrored our pop stars, right? Like I'm not gonna lie, I had a Michael Jackson Thriller outfit. I had the jacket and everything. I
Nice.
had the leather pants. There's a picture of
Dude,
me
that's
somewhere. I even
awesome.
had the glove,
You need to
right?
be proud of that,
I was
actually.
proud of it,
You should.
man.
You should be proud of that now.
We did haircuts, and so
Yeah.
now the thing is, like, that's what we were exposed to, right?
Right.
That's what we. That was the access to the media. But now kids, they get access to the news. They get access to. We see our presidents. We see our media people. We see our parents. We see our social media. Now they're picking up and mirroring how we talk to each other, the
Yep.
disrespect. I don't have to give you anything. I mean, literally, I was having a conversation with a kid about racism, and he's like, I don't. There was a story earlier. This I think last week where a reporter. There's a network where two different reporters. He called it Martin Luther.
I did.
Yeah, like I don't
Yeah.
want to say it, CON. I don't even
He
want to
said
say
it.
it.
Yeah.
And he said it, and he got fired, right? And this kid's like, I think everyone's studying politically correct. He goes, I understand why black people are. I'm like, dude,
Dude. Yeah.
and
Come
I'm like,
on.
he's like, it's not. I don't think he meant it to be offensive. I go, but man, like,
But
you're going off of just what you think is offensive. I go, if 9 out of 10 people think something you said is offensive, guess what? It's offensive. If 9 out of 10 women think something that you said was sexist, guess what? It's sexist. If 9 out of 10 fill in the blank, it too much. We hear people right now going, well, it's just oh, you're just being politically correct. Oh, you're just being this, and it's like,
well, perception becomes reality.
yeah,
It really does.
and
That's
it goes on.
fact.
It does go on both ends, and it's just, I mean, like, Dad, you were telling me you were at a doctor's office, and someone was making like awful comments. You don't have to repeat the terms that were used, but you're literally, it made you uncomfortable. You were just ready to go.
Yeah, it was very, very uncomfortable, and he felt empowered and emboldened, okay, to be able to take these very disturbing viewpoints and comments and not even do it in a whisper, but to do it very out loud. And even when another individual came in that, was obvious over there, is to make a remark to hear that, you know, and then to sit there and talk to you about what it's going to be like when the baby boomers die and everything else, what's going to be left. And I'm sitting there going, please call me, do something, because at this point, this is getting to be uncomfortable to the point I didn't know. I'll be very honest with you. I actually did sit and think about, with all these people bringing guns in, could this guy be disturbed
Yep.
that he would pull out a gun? I mean,
That's
I mean,
yeah.
and
And
I
that's
never
the
really thought in
but
my
that's the
own
negative
mind ever
consequence. Yeah.
I
But
would
that's the
think
truth.
about that.
Yeah. I literally been the analogy I use, it's kind of like, you know, everyone's wondering why these things are happening. Everyone keeps pulling these stupid statistics to go, well, technically this hasn't gotten any worse. All right, bullshit. We all know that's people are using statistics to argue. You have to argue 7 different setups to make your point, where you can sit there and just go, how many times growing up did you see mass shootings? Never. Okay, simple enough. Done with conversation, right? If you have to use 7 to 10 different setups to prove a point in a very particular way, okay, and I can sit there and go, look at the piece of paper. Is that true or not? Yes. Okay, that's the truth then, right? And literally, we never had to worry about these things growing up. And at the point I've been making, and no one was willing to hear me. This is actually impetus for why I'm even doing radio. Was like an old car, right? You're driving it, you get on the highway, and it ran about like 65 miles an hour. The whole damn thing starts shimmying, and like things start falling because it just can't quite handle it. And the faster you go, that to me is what's been going on in our society. Is that the politicians, the media, they got away with so much, all this rancor, all these things to get ratings, to get voters, to get people's attention. And now the problem is, though, now it's getting to that point where now things, my analogy is the screws falling off are these people losing it. We're pushing people that were already mentally unhinged, and we're pushing them to an area where now all of a sudden they are taking a call to action. We're taking people that were already racist. We're creating environments where they feel emboldened and justified for it. People are arguing, well, racism's always been there. Yeah, but they didn't talk about that shit. And that's the thing. More and more people are talking. They feel emboldened by it. People talking down to each other. Like an 18-year-old kid talking down to a 40-year-old like they're hired help or they're a moron.
Yeah.
And this be going, well, it's not my fault you're offended. It's like that
It
to
is
me.
your fault,
Yeah,
actually.
and that's to me
In that
where.
case, you know.
Yeah, and
Well, you know, and you said, you know, the other part is too, you know, you know, a lot of your society can be found in music, in art, and everything else. And if you take a little bit with the kids, listen to how they know the words of these rap songs and its implications. I mean, they could not recite to you the preamble to the Constitution. They could not go into that, but they can close their eyes and tell you all the words in the song.
Sure.
well, I mean, you gotta look at
And
society and
these
music.
are all rebellion words.
Yeah.
These
What is that?
are.
Was it Andy Warhol? Art imitates life. Life imitates art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly.
I literally was reading this morning how pop music, if you look at the lyrics and just the energy behind it, it's more sullen and morose than it's ever kind of been before. That's just that symbiotic nature, and it's just, and I look at what's going on in this country with the shutdown, is that this is where we're at as a country. We are so divided, so incredibly just in an awful spot where we've dehumanized each other. I mean,
Right.
literally,
Literally.
we had 800,000
Yeah.
people out of work, and
People are going, you should have planned ahead.
you should have played ahead. We had literally Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross,
Yeah.
chief economic, literally going, I don't understand what the big deal is. Why don't they just go and get a loan? And Trump making a
Well,
comment about getting
Maria-
a food credit at a grocery store. It's like,
Yeah, Trump said
really,
something about that. Yeah.
Marie Antoinette said, "Why don't they eat cake?" And she lost her head.
yeah,
You know, but you know,
it's gotten that bad,
I
it
sit
seems
back
like.
a little bit, saying, you know, I'll look back on it and look, saying, you know, are we fast approaching? Are we fast approaching not an evolutionary change in our society, but a revolutionary change in the society?
I mean,
And I really do think that people are starting that all this is starting to come down because there is such a vast, I know we're going back to an old part, there is such a vast distance now between the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah.
Middle class is
And
shrinking.
Oh,
it
yeah.
is getting,
Absolutely.
it is getting to the point now to where the anger and the people are beginning to see how long it's been since they don't have that access to the economic system, or things have just gone to that way. And then you hear government officials, you know, more worried about one thing, and one person telling you, well, go get a loan. You're going to get paid anyway. Well,
you still got to pay interest on that, like a
Right.
payday loan. I mean, what kind of bank does loans like
Yeah,
that?
like 30%.
I couldn't
Yeah.
believe it. But
It was shocking.
but think
Even Trump
about it, though.
apologized for him.
That's crazy.
Well,
Yeah.
but think that was a multi-millionaire.
Yep.
Telling the people, what are you worrying about?
Yep.
Eat cake. I'm going,
Well,
you
it's-
know, guys, there
Well,
was
even
a French Revolution.
was it Tiffany Trump? Was it Tiffany Trump or Laura Trump?
Oh, yeah,
Made the
she
yeah,
got on
she
and
may
she
even made a
said-
comment. She got nailed for it.
Yeah.
well,
And
it's
I'm
like
sitting there going, you know, the last time people said all that, about 30,000 people went to the guillotine.
well,
You know, where they made economic redistributed the wealth by cutting off the heads.
yeah,
Yeah.
right, and that's not going to work either. You know,
And Congress, I'll be very honest. I'm an independent. I don't give a shit one way about the other, if a Democrat or a Republican. I think they all suck.
yes.
They all have been so divorced from
Yeah.
the United States.
Completely.
And the Schumers, the Pelosi's, the McConnell, they're all worried about their own little personal empires.
Yep.
And when you allow 800,000 people and the biggest government department that secures the Homeland Security, which controls everything that protects us, and when they treat it like a lump of coal and everything else, you've got to sit back and
pawn.
say,
It is a pawn.
where are we in this whole mess?
Exactly. And that's why I think
And
this.
you got to sit there and say
Yeah.
the president of the United States, to Congress, to the courts, that whole government is so in the wrong direction. And some of
But
the
do they get
comments
it?
that
I
were
don't think they
coming
get it
out.
though. I
They
just don't.
don't. They're so
I don't think they do.
And
removed
that's the
from reality.
and that's like the whole point. Like, in where I was gonna, I mean, and I'm glad you went here, Dex. I was gonna take it here. The whole point I was steering into is that, like, Bill, you posted on our Gray Matters and on your Armchair QB that 50% of our Congress is millionaires, and
Yeah.
I think the reason why they don't see the effects of their media and their tactics, they don't understand how hard all this is on people, is that they're all millionaires. They literally have no idea. It's like when you didn't know how bad war was because it was happening across the country, and you didn't see that. Oh wow, there was collateral damage because what? Remember, Dad, was what you were telling me. The Vietnam War was the first war where people actually saw how bad war was and they were angry.
Yeah.
And now it's like, I think it's the same deal. To them, they might think about it in theory, but they don't get it. And then on top of that, of the power structure and the way money flows, I think they have no idea, because they're all millionaires. They have no idea, and this shutdown was the evidence that the system is so inherently broken, not just because they're crooked, because they're so far removed they don't get it, and the system is designed to only elect people of means. You can't run for
Well,
office without the means.
exactly. And it's all there's so many personal and other agendas, that are being played out, that the overall well-being of the country, I think, for 35 days was totally ignored.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And, for a president who is sworn to protect and defend the Constitution and the government, to allow the Homeland Security, the Coast Guards, your transport TSAs, FBI, all these people that protect us, to basically get to a point where it was on the verge of a national disaster.
Yeah.
It should have never even gotten that far.
No, heck no. And mysteriously, the second they saw the FAA shutting down, because they knew how all of a sudden mysteriously they come to an agreement. It's like it took
Yeah.
that for them to realize, oh wow,
Well,
you're so. I mean,
like I told you before, I always think there should be a law on the books, and of course that this would never happen. But I wish there was some kind of law on the books that said, you know what, if the government is shut down for X number of days, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, what have you, then every elected politician,
recall election.
including the president, would be subject to a recall election on the basis that they cannot get it, gridlock, and they cannot get it done. And if it was like after 30 days, it was everyone was subject to this recall election. I guarantee you, on the 29th day, what would happen?
Yeah.
Everything would
You'd
be
have
worked out.
settlement.
What a
Yeah.
miracle!
See,
Right.
I'm like with you,
Yeah.
Ray. I'm with you where I think there should be the ability to have a vote of no confidence.
I agree.
Yep.
Yeah, but the only here's
I really do. I think you need to have it to the point to where we could come back and say to our lawmakers, we've lost confidence.
You can't get it done.
Yeah.
That's all. It's like
And
nothing
then,
personal.
And that's where walks us in is term limits.
There you
I know
go.
we're
Yeah.
going to get back to that at some point. These people have got to be getting out of there at a certain period of time. They've got to go.
but
The
here's the thing though.
McConnells, all these people.
But it does begin with the people, though, and that's where I think we're hamstrung, because so many people are so trapped into this Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative. Where
Well, who does that though?
I mean,
Who fans that flame we were talking about
media,
earlier?
politicians,
The media
everything.
There
does.
goes your
Yeah.
politicians and your press.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's where when we had a couple weeks on, when we had Solomon from the Uniters.org talking about how, if it's really going to work, and he goes, this is where I think people get hung up, is that everyone's looking for that candidate that's just going to be there. Like, oh, it's an independent third party. It's here. It's arrived. Go for it. Right. Vote for it. And it's not going to be like that. He goes, it's going to take people that are so frustrated, so angry, so tired of everything, to where start running. And he goes, you're going to need a farm system, like a AAA farm system of run for city council, run for those offices. And then all of a sudden you get some traction. People know who you are. And then maybe you run for a state senator, a state house rep. And then maybe you run for, and then that's how you get it started. And he goes, but it takes time, and no one's willing to do that. Everyone has that big thought of this is what it needs to be, and then in the meantime, this is what we have. And so I think we have to change people's minds. And that's why, I mean, ultimately, it's why I think we're doing what we're doing, is that obviously talking to people one-on-one isn't going to make a difference. I used to try to tell myself that as a clinician of, well, one person will beget another person. I'm just like, dude, this is too slow. That's why I was like, okay, like, maybe if we have a media show and a network, and that's why I'm so excited about the projects we're working on. I mean, literally, a news site, the reporters, that is about being independent. We have people on the left, people on the right. We literally present all the news. We have little news bubbles. It's not the Drudge Report where it's all conservative. It's everything. Yeah. We're going to have a whole host of podcasts and shows that's all from the center and a little bit from the right, a little bit from the left.
Bring it back to what news used to be, what it's
Let you
to
think
be.
for yourself. I'm going to present you some facts.
What was it? Was it CNN? What show was that says "We report, you decide"? Was that CNN?
Oh,
There was
yeah.
There was an actual show. Was it the Meet the Press? Maybe I can't remember what
was
it was.
that?
Someone else would know. It was "We
We
report,
report, you decide."
And the whole time they're like really left leaning. I'm like, yeah.
And that's the other problem, is that fair and balanced. No, it's like, I remember I was talking to a really hardcore conservative, and he's like, dude, Fox News is fair and balanced. I go, is it really fair and balanced when half the country doesn't think it's fair and balanced?
If you have to tell everyone you're fair and balanced,
you're not
you're
fair
probably
and balanced.
not. And that, and I watch Fox News as much as I watch CNN, as much as I watch MSNBC. You like Dick had said earlier, you have to kind of watch all of them. And I've done that for many years, because even before Trump came into power, even Obama, back when it was Bush, George W., you had to watch all of them, because one station, they loved him, the other stations would hate him. And I always knew, even, in my early 20s, I was like, well, the truth probably lies somewhere in between. So you kind of got to, listen to all the media you can, and then you make your own decision. But like you said, it's not happening. People listen to one outlet or another outlet that's the same, and then they go, "Oh, that must be what's going on." I'm like, well, there's probably more to that.
Well, that's why I love when CNN used to have Crossfire.
Yeah, you were talking
That was when
about that.
Tucker was on there, right?
That was the greatest.
Yeah, who was on that?
The Raging Cajun,
conservative,
James Carville, Tucker. It was who's the guy? Novak, right?
Yeah, Novak was on. Novak was on it. Oh God, what was his name?
What was the other one? The McLaughlin. Remember, was it McLaughlin Group? Was another big one too.
That was on PBS. That was on.
It was kind of a similar thing, right? Everyone kind of gave their opinions, basically.
And that's where I used to come back with a lot of my opinions, where I formed it. I listened to both sides in a counterpoint.
Yeah. Have you guys ever, lately, have you tried to listen to when Fox or CNN or MSNBC, they will try to have a counterpoint? Like, they'll have one of those interviews where they'll have, they'll have the conservative viewpoint and they'll have the liberal viewpoint. And but all the stations seem to do this. Not all of them, but it seems like all the ones I see.
It's handpicked.
Well, right. Well, not only they handpick it, but depending on which station it is and what their beliefs are, they'll allow the person that shares their beliefs their minute or whatever to talk. And then I swear, when the person that opposes them starts talking, all of a sudden the host will be cutting them off and be like, no, like, they're really nasty.
Well, it's not only that; it's the
it's funny to see that.
It's like and I've tried talking with someone like this. Actually, it was. I'm not talking about that. Though. Well, the thing is, you have to understand with this. Well, no, I'm not talking about that.
Right,
well,
they cut them off.
No, I'm talking about that though. Well, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
I remember I was actually arguing with a clinician once about we were talking about the etiology of where something forms in the brain, and I'm like, well, you have to look at comparative psycho. Well, I'm not talking about comparative. Well, I am, though. That's my whole point. Well, I'm not talking about that. Well,
stick to the topic, please.
It's it's only framed, and that's the thing. It's only framed. There's a great scene in My Cousin Vinny. I love this scene, right? Where he was explaining to the kid about the defense's case, right? And he goes, all he's going to show you is the card. Look at it. It's an ace, and flips it forward and backwards. But the thing is, though, he doesn't want you to look at it from the side because it's flimsy. His case is as flimsy as this card. And he only is going to have you look at it in that one way. And that's what they do in the news. That's what politicians do. They only want you to look at it in the way they want you to, because if you look at it any other way, you'll see that it doesn't hold water. It's like the climate change debate. They only want you to look at it in one way. Oh my God, look how cold it is here. And it's like, but it's 50 degrees above normal in the Arctic. It's like, well, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about here, though. Yeah. They'll even get you to get away from what you think. Like, literally, I wish I could make this shit up. We were talking about, this was when I was in Texas, and literally 5 minutes, like they're talking about how crazy the weather is. The weather's never been like this before. It's kind of crazy. And then somehow the topic went to climate change. I don't believe in climate change. That shit's bullshit.
Yeah.
But you were literally just talking about climate change.
It's hotter than it's ever been.
Yeah, it's like, but that's what they do, and it's dangerous, and we have to do something about it. But it is up to us because once again, as we saw this week, all these millionaires, all these people are so far removed, they literally can't get it. They don't get it. It is impossible for them to get it. It's almost like it would almost be like being a rich white guy that grew up in gated communities that literally never even seen an African American person, and them trying to understand what it was like to be a slave, or someone that grew up in the 1960s and saying, I get where you're coming from. It's like, I don't even think you almost can get it. You're so far removed from it.
Yeah.
I just think sometimes people are so far removed from each other, they can't get it. And I think it's no more apparent than what it is now. Even if they wanted to get it, I think their constituencies, and their constituencies, let's be honest, isn't the voters. It's who's been giving them money.
The big donors.
The big donors,
sure,
right?
Absolutely. We all
and
know
it's
this.
and it's put it this way, if they wanted to fix something, think about it, right? So, like, Dad, you're a consultant. I've done consulting work. When a company wants to fix something because it's affecting their bottom line, they're paying you to fix it, they will just go do what we got to do to fix it, right? We'll go in and talk to the low-level people. We'll talk to, literally people on the floor, the people that are doing the actual business and asking in, because that's what we want to hear, right? We want to see what are they going through. What are the problems that you're basically seeing? Because that's what's going to solve the problem, right? Mm-hmm. But the thing is, though, you got to look at, do we see that from our government right now, these millionaires? Do we see this from these wealthy donors? Are they really trying to understand what the average person is going through? No. They're not. Their intention is not to fix this, because let's face it, they're benefiting from it. The only ones benefiting from the dysfunction are the people that have all the power, the people that are elected, the people that are doing all the donating. And they've held this country hostage because, well, if you do this, we're going to lose all these jobs and have to cut back, and the economy's go down a shitter. And they've literally held a gun to our head of, you're going to have to keep the system the same exact way, because if you don't, you're going to lose all these jobs.
You need us.
You're going to be blamed for it. You're going to need us. And sorry.
That's what worries me personally about people that want bigger government and more liberalism, so to speak. Not all of it, but some of it is they say, well, we need the government to have more control and more of this, and basically, take care of us more than what they are. And on some aspects, I agree. For what we pay in taxes and everything, I feel like we should get more for our money. But at the same time, do you really want more government? Do you want more people saying, listen, you need me? Really? You're not going to elect me? Then guess what? This is going to go away, and
I don't know.
Go away?
I don't know.
Dad,
don't know. Maybe you would view it differently. I look at it's trust. I think people would pay the taxes or wouldn't mind it if we were getting think about it. If we had all free health care, if we had great infrastructure, if there wasn't really much corruption, if any at all. Bureaucracy is one thing. Corruption is another. That's the thing. No one trusts the government to do their job. Well, that's why no one's
what
they
just did the last 35 days.
Exactly, right?
Come on.
There's so many problems in this world, and there's so many problems in our country, and the shit that we're arguing over isn't even the biggest part about it. But yet here we are, arguing about bullshit. You guys can't even fucking talk to each other, and it's like, we got to be real here, because dude, this government's only it wasn't they end the shutdown. It was, all right, I bought 3 weeks, and Trump already pretty much said, okay, if I don't get my wall, a steel or concrete barrier, I'm going to shut it down on the 15th, or I'm going to declare an emergency. So, Pelosi already came out and said, no, I'm not going to give it to you.
Oh, she can't give it.
Yeah, no, she can't give it, right?
No,
and she already said, I was already very clear on it. And then, so he's going to declare an emergency. The Democrats are going to fight it, and guess what? We're going to be right back into the same thing.
The interesting part is, I do remember the Democrats saying, maybe like 2 weeks ago, telling Trump very publicly too, saying, "Hey, go ahead and reopen the government, and we'll work on this whole wall thing."
And now that's exactly where I'm saying now.
Yeah.
You got 3 weeks, and everybody's rubbing everybody's noses. I want, you want. That shouldn't even be the dialogue going on right now. Both parties should be sitting down, and they're going to have a conference committee, and sit there and empower that conference committee to take all the expert testimony to all that and say, based on this, this is where it's going to go. And this is what we're recommending. If you're going to take the next 3 weeks to sit there and say, I won, Trump caved, things like that, then at that point, you got to sit there and say, it's not functioning.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like,
and then, and to hear a president sit there and tell you about this war and everything else, and you've got the main Department of Homeland Security shut down, but all you're hearing about is all this war on the southern border. I mean, God, I wasn't born yesterday, but I'm sitting there going, well, if that's the case and we're at war, why do you have the Department of Homeland Security shut down?
It doesn't make any. It's like, do something else to make your point, but that was not the stand to make. That was not the place to do it.
Shut it down.
It doesn't make any sense.
That's like saying drugs are worse than ever, but we're going to shut down the DEA.
But here's the thing, though. But think about it. This is where you distort reality, though, because if you talk to people who really do think like, oh no, like he did the right thing. They believe that the threat is so dire, that we had to do. We had no other choice.
The media they do this. They manipulate you. They manipulate you. They manipulate me. They manipulate everyone that's listening to believe what they want you to believe.
Because it's ratings.
Yeah.
It rile the people up. I mean, when Ann Coulter and Dobbs and all those guys come out going, you lost, it's like, that to me is the epitome of it's about winning or losing. Democrats win, Democrats lose. Republicans win, Republicans lose. But here's the reality. Guess what? If anytime anyone's playing for Democrats to win or Republicans to lose, America loses. You cannot have that as a government.
Well, any media that's got a horse in the race is never going to give you a fair shake. They're just not. I mean, I'm not saying they won't report everything that goes on. Like, if something happens with Trump and they find out something concrete and he definitely did this, Fox News is going to have no choice but to report it. Same thing goes with CNN. If one of their chosen ones do something and something happens where they're going to have to, because at the end of the day, they're still in the news business. But I got to tell you, most of those outlets are not going to want to tell you about that. Instead, you're going to have someone go, well, no, it's just a big, giant conspiracy against this person. And maybe it is. But
and think about it, like, it is so bad now. When Roger Stone got arrested, literally I was trolling the message boards, I was reading all this, and literally what it's been broken down into now. I mean, we're talking not even just Yahoo's saying this. I mean, we have some friends on Facebook even saying it, basically going, so you fall into two camps now, which is scary as shit to me as I say this.
That's
so
right.
You either have the camp that, okay, there's a deep state, they hate Trump incredibly bad, and that all these people that are getting arrested, they're trumped up charges. It's fake. The FBI as a whole entity is so corrupt. It's basically a Gestapo, and it's literally going after Trump, an innocent man, because he's trying to change everything. And basically it's like the FBI is completely fraudulent. The Department of Justice is fraudulent. Or you fall into the other camp of this president is basically under the whim of Russia, and basically we have a Manchurian candidate,
right?
And and our country's being run by this, and we need to impeach this guy and everybody else. I mean,
and there's like it's probably somewhere in between.
And that's the crazy thing is that, and it's like people they can't let go because how conditioned everyone is with this media is that it's like they can't let go of a belief. And they're trying to find all this evidence to match it. It's what we call the confirmation bias. In research, you first try to disprove your hypothesis because you don't want to sit there, I'm only trying to confirm it. And only if you can't disprove it, then do you start trying to prove it. Now it's the opposite way around. I'm only looking for evidence that's going to prove what I want to believe. And not only that, they want to believe it so bad, they'll find some way of twisting and turning. It's like a kid trying to believe in Santa Claus when he knows his parents gave him the gifts. And like, well, okay, so what happens is that there's a lot of Santas. There's just not enough because the world population grew, and that Santa gives my parents the presents.
Wait, what are you trying to say about Santa Claus here? I'm confused.
But doesn't it not seem like that? It's like someone holding, or it's like in the 90s movie, like in a romantic comedy, where the person has stood up at the restaurant and they keep looking at their watch and they keep coming up with they must must, they're a doctor. They must have had an emergency. Oh, yeah, they must. Oh, they must just be raining. Like the weather's kind of bad. Well, there was a lot of pothole. It's like they're not. It's like they know what the truth is, but it's like they can't internalize that they got stood up, right? That's where I feel like people want to believe it so bad, and then the media wants them to believe it so bad because it's ratings, and there's not anyone being the adult in the room going, okay, maybe that's not right.
Well, do you think that the media, though, as much as I bash on the media, do you think, though, the media is just giving the people what they want?
Absolutely, yeah.
Because some people, they want this story to be true or not true.
I know for a fact
so
they
are. They obviously migrate to the news sources that tell you what you want to hear, and people are going, well, hey, we're in the ratings business.
So, yeah.
You're telling you what you want to see or giving you what you want.
So totally, it is 100%. They are... It's symbiotic. We're going to give you what it is that you want, but we basically are shaping what it is we want. That's where it started changing. Literally, I have clients that are in a field called business analytics or data analytics, actuarial sciences, where literally they're using AI and algorithms down to literally they can sit there and tell when you're talking about one thing and then the viewership drops off, and then they can actively in real time start switching what they're talking about.
Do you think that's a good thing to have?
Everything in business.
I mean for society, not for their ratings, not for their bottom line. I meant for us as a
you know what?
Culture.
It's all depending on the hands who it's in.
Yeah.
I really do think that because that same AI is being used to compile cancer chemotherapy trials and constantly understanding how does it matches up all the genetics, the treatment outcomes, what the doctors were saying, and literally now they have AI that's picking better radiation chemo regimens than the doctors are. So everything right now is about it's about human nature. Human nature can be good. Human nature can be bad.
So you're talking about AI. So basically, if I hear you correctly, you're telling me that all this is to blame can be put on Skynet.
Yes.
I knew it.
Yes, Bill. That's it.
We knew it was going to take a while, but son of a bitch, I knew it.
Finally got there.
Finally, it took a while.
But I mean, they are strategically doing it. But that being said, though, you're also right with what you're saying, because what my clients have told me is that, listen, they're simply giving you what it is you want. Think of it. He goes, the example he used, because he's worked two jobs. One is a movie company, which is his recent one. Mm-hmm. The one he worked before was actually for a supermarket chain, predicting buyer and consumer insights and habits. One of the things he told me, he goes, think about it. 10 years ago, how many organic things did you see? I'm like, you didn't. He was exactly because the consumers didn't demand it, right? Think about 5 years ago, how much organic did you see? A lot. Well, people demanded it. They start bringing it in. He goes, now think about it. 3 years ago, 2 years ago, how often do you hear people talking about high fructose corn syrup and antibiotics? And, well, none. He goes, well, what happened? People started getting angry, and then all of a sudden studies started coming out, and so they went from not caring to realizing buying habits. So now what do you see? Everything now is high fructose corn syrup free. Almost everything is antibiotic free, hormone free. He goes, so it's symbiotic, but here's the problem, though. They're never going to purposely try harder to do something for the good of mankind. They have shareholders. They can't, for the good of mankind, I'm going to do this because it's going to save, because it'll save lives or it'll make the world in better harmony. No, they're going to lose their job, and they know somebody else will come in and do it. So they're not going to go out of their way to go, we're going to change the dynamic. It has to be the people have to demand it first. And that's the crux. They're always going to go for the easy, low-hanging fruit, which is keep doing what you're doing and doubling down on it. And then what did I say 20 minutes ago? Because they're millionaires, because they're so far removed, they don't see that collateral damage, so they don't even know it's an issue. That's why I think we're all screaming. That's why I think this shutdown was such a big thing. It took an FAA shutdown of them getting affected to where the volume was loud enough. That's where it's on us as people in the media, to can we get people to demand something different? If you're a candidate, let's say you're a Democrat or a Republican committee member, and you're putting up two candidates, one that's a status guy, one that's rich, one that's literally has all the money in the world for lobbying, but can't get elected. But then you have somebody else that literally is a man or woman of the people that is legitimately going to do good and going to get elected. Guess who you're going to go with?
Exactly.
So that's the thing. We can change it. We can change it quickly with social media and all that. But it's on us to wake up and realize what the score is so we can make that change.
I think you need a candidate on the Gray Matters ticket.
You
What do
know,
you think about that?
well, it's going to take a while, you know.
No,
Maybe I should try the Orange Township City Council first, you
I'm
know.
being dead serious. I mean, it's going to take, like you said, a third-party candidate. And, but what always happens when you have someone that runs in the third-party candidate? The media, once again,
well, and that's why, honestly,
they try to label them. Look at this whack job. Look at this crazy person.
If I'm brutally honest, I mean, me and my friends have always talked. They know I want to get into politics one day. The whole reason why I think we're going the route that we are now, because we realized the only way that it is going to work if you have the media behind you. And that's why I think we're putting energy and effort into creating an independent media source. Creating a media where it's a mouthpiece, not a propaganda arm, but simply an airwave and a way of getting it out. Exactly.
Let people make up their own minds. The truth, what's wrong with
And I think you need that. I mean, it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take so many people. It's going to take time, but I think these are the beginning steps about it. These are the discussions we need to have, and if we can, I figure as a counselor, as a clinician, if my job is to bridge the gaps between two people, two organizations, two families, whatever, and get them to find that common ground and de-escalate things, and being that impartial person in the room. And really, I would argue, who better than a counselor that has their finger on the heartbeat of what's really bothering people? We're the one place where people are honest. We only do this job because we care and we want to make a difference. If anyone is going to be able to really do what's best for people, and so I'm a clinician. It's why Gray Matters is why Gray Matters is. So I don't know. It's just this week to me was. It wasn't even the canary in the coal mine. The canary fucking died a while ago. We just been pretending. Oh no, he's cool. He's gonna wake up. He's just playing possum. It's a different breed. It's a possum canary.
The cat ate the canary. And already digested.
Yeah, you got
exactly. Now the cat. Exactly. And now it's a zombie. The zombie cat that ate the canary. It's a zombie canary.
I will say this about everything that's been going on. Talking about a legitimate third party candidate down the road right now. With what's going on with our government and our elected officials, the Republicans and Democrats are doing all the legwork and doing everything they can to get the American voters to wake up and say, "What are we doing? We need an alternate."
Well, I think they're not. I think they're doing everything in their power to maintain status quo.
I don't
think they want to wake up.
I think they honestly think, and I don't fault them for this because maybe it's true. They think they're too big to fail. Well, who else? You're going to elect the other people? Honestly, don't you know what those people will do to you?
Oh, God, who was saying that? Talking about, let's say all this stuff is somewhat true with Trump and all this. They're saying it's like, they almost thought that the government was dumb. Like, I am so smart. There's no way anyone's going to find anything.
You figured it out, but no one else did.
I think they're all guilty of that. Yeah. Republicans, Democrats.
I do that sometimes. I'm like, no one else. How does no one else see this?
But what they don't realize, and I think, there is a brewing anger. But the problem is, though, I think everyone's been quietly angry and not knowing what to do with it. And we're almost like, we're fighting with each other, swinging wildly in the dark. We just need somebody. We need people. We need adults in a room to tell us, all right, we're all angry, but let's stop fighting with each other. The people that we should be fighting are the ones that are telling us to fight each other. And it has to stop. But we need some adults in a room. And I don't know. I'm hoping, we start seeing some of that. But if not, I mean, 1 begets 2, 2 begets 4, and then I don't know. I mean, who knows? But this week was just a bad week for this country. It was embarrassing, and enough is enough. We have to wake up and realize we're not being represented. But guess what? We are the problem itself of people. We've elected these people. We've allowed ourselves to be lazy and not think. Yeah. We have to clean it up. It's up to us, and we can clean up in one election cycle.
Well, that's the thing. People just have to have enough of this shit and just say, you know what? Let's do something about it.
I think if anything comes out of all this, I think the American people who've got to realize is they got to go and vote. They can't sit on their duffs.
Nope.
When these people are being elected as with minority voting. And they're going to make decisions for you that are going to impact your lives.
Yep.
You've got to go to the polls. You've got to exercise that vote. And when you only see maybe less than 50% or maybe 50% of the total voters, that's pretty disgraceful for a country. Be very honest. That's why I think we've got a lot of the elected officials, because basically the people that are electing them are the people that have something to gain from it.
Yeah.
And
you need some people to vote for, though. I think you need somebody. I do like some of these young congressmen coming in, but I don't like the radical nature of how far left and right they are.
Yeah,
We
they
need
really
some
are.
young, like blue dog
Well-
Democrats. What would be the equivalent of a Reagan Democrat of a? Would you call it
It
a?
ain't Ocasio-Cortez, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
well,
because you get people like that,
Oh,
dude, they're going to get elected in gangs. I mean, like,
that's what's
well,
kind of scary.
that's what I'm trying to say is that is a revolution waiting to happen.
but you need those candidates. So, but where are they?
But you got to get campaign reform and get these big special interests out
Yeah.
of the campaigning.
And I think, and to
Or
me,
it's basically you can't run for politics unless you're a millionaire.
Citizens United to me was
You know?
the biggest threat to democracy. They basically they basically said so a business can have unlimited voice, unlimited access because you can't infringe upon you basically, because the way the system is where they have all the access, so they can have all the access in the world on a technicality, you took away the access and voice of 99% of the people. And then we wonder why this is how it is. We had John Busey on The Voice of the Radical Center. He was a Texas House of Representative. He said straight up, the system is set up for only wealthy people to run. They want it that way. They only want wealthy people, because if they got other people in there that actually give a crap and they could actually have a living wage while running, because right now you need to be independently wealthy to run, because you can't work and run. They don't pay you enough to support your family, so you have to be wealthy. And they set up that way on purpose. He said it with no hesitation. That should tell us something when a sitting congressman is going, no, straight up, no, it is set up on that way on purpose. So that, but once again, it's chicken or the egg. We can't change that, so we got to find some way around that. If we, look at, hey, it shouldn't even be money. It should be, if we're going to do a middle party, it should be, tell you what, I'll help you support your family. I'll help deliver groceries so you don't have to go and buy the food. Hey, I tell you what, I'll help you guys with your gas bill. Like, there has to be some community out there where it's, you want to run and they're not going to pay you, we will help you pick up the slack. Although I don't know if they'll pay for my Mustang. That might be a little, that might be a little egregious. But I mean, it's I can do therapy on the campaign bus, right?
It's gonna have to go back to almost like how it is on The Walking Dead is now, and the little community they have there, where everyone pitches in. You almost gonna have to revert back if you want people to get along again.
I've had someone asked me why all those shows are so big, and my theory was, I think people on a level think everything is so screwed up that I think they realize that they think the only way we're going to fix everything if we blow everything up, a fucking virus, a zombie apocalypse, a nuclear. It's like that's...
We almost need, and I hate to say it, we almost, to not heal this country, but to stop so much division, we almost need a uniting event, something along the lines of, and not to want to ever see it again, but something like a 9/11. Do you remember in the days, in the weeks, and even the months after 9/11,
but
how
I think that only lasted like a month or two.
But that's what I mean, though. But it's
zombie apocalypse. That shit never. That's like gone. Like civilization done. Dude.
That's a little bit different. But I mean, do you remember what Bush's approval rating was after 9/11?
Oh, yeah.
It was like 80 or 90%.
Yeah.
It was something insane.
I'm telling you,
people that couldn't stand George W. Bush.
I'm holding out. I hope the aliens just come. I'm just like, hey, what's up? All right, we're the big kids are back.
Dude, I'm telling you, they're looking down on us right now going, I ain't going down.
It's on you, man.
Look
drawing straws right now.
Look what they do to each other.
Hey, Bibble, this is on you, man.
Imagine what they would do to us. Look what they do to people that are just different colors each other down. You know what I mean? Like, look what they can do to a different species. Oh, man. We would be on their planet and enslaving them literally the first chance we got if they didn't blow us up with their ray gun. If we had the opportunity, hey, everybody, come back to Mars and we can have, man, we would have those folks rounded up. We would have taking all their natural resources.
Yep.
The first, you know what the base would be? Well, we don't know. They were probably going to try to do it to us. So let's just, we need to better be safe than sorry. Instead of Homeland Security, we'd have Spaceland Security.
Oh, dude, I'm telling you, man. All right. If we're going on aliens and it's time to wrap this shit up. I mean, we make it a point, and there's a good discussion.
That's where the show went off the rails.
Yeah, that's where it ends. We've been doing this long enough now to realize it's time to wrap this shit up. But it was a good discussion because I think once again everything is now kind of coming back to that this shutdown was just the evidence that we needed to really see how bad it is. And I think we laid out a pretty damn good case of why we think we got here, why, and what we can do to kind of get to that next level, what we can do to kind of change. But it's going to take time, it's going to take energy, it's going to take work. But as long as we keep having these conversations, I think we can get there, you know? So on that note, Bill, any final words?
No, not really. I think we pretty much covered it.
Well, he's not the best color commentary man in the league for nothing, folks.
I set you up for that one.
Love that movie.
I know.
Say a few words.
Swing the corner, miss. Pops, any last words?
Yippee-yi-yo-ki-yay.
All right, everybody.
We're still
it.
into it. We're still going.
We
It's
still-
still going to come to us yet.
You always got to go back to the movies, right?
Always.
So on that note, everybody, I am Michael Devine. You are listening to Gray Matters Radio, proud member of the HD Universal Network for the next couple months. And remember, next time someone asks you, hey man, you a Democrat? You a Republican? Say, fuck that noise. My ass is gray. All right, everybody. You have a good weekend. Peace.
Yeah.